Hi, Mike. It's so great to be with you today.
Awesome. Awesome to be here. Nice to see you as well.
It's amazing when, thoughts become actual services. And to have met you a year ago and you sharing this amazing special work you're doing in training underrepresented humans in cybersecurity and giving them work experience. The journey with you the last year to get to where I can offer this to my clients has been spectacular. I've really enjoyed getting to meet you and your team and what you folks have done. It's really special.
Oh, well, thank you. And for sure, from the beginning with what we're trying to do, we're trying to bring in people to really help us make it happen, right? It's not just the responsibility of the talent participant or the student developing. It's really a whole system we try to put around them with what we're doing in Cyber Forward, and that takes great partners. And so we're really totally excited to have you guys on board with us moving forward. We know it's just gonna be awesome.
Yeah, isn't that the truth? Let's see, hiring talent, retaining talent, this whole system is so difficult. Both you and I have, firms and are doing this work of, helping underrepresented people come into cyber, right? On the side, if you will, like that's the side. I mean, you have a cyber consulting firm, I have a cyber staffing firm, and yet solving this talent shortage, solving the diversity shortage, solving the training that humans need before they're valuable to a cyber team problem is it's really massive. And to be here, I mean, I know you've been thinking about this problem for years and years and years. So have I, and we've been working at it. And now we're here. We actually have. You've done an amazing job at getting the appropriate training, and how it makes so much sense considering you're a consulting firm as CISO right? Which is where this was sort of born out of as well.
Mhm.
Like what the clients need. Those tasks and those projects that need to be taken off the seniors to really help them day one. And so you've been able to train in that. And I can't wait to share with my clients, what that training is, what the three jobs that we can deliver on now are, right? Our junior analysts, our junior security analysts, as well as vulnerability analysts, and also, gosh, why am I missing my third already here?
Risk assessor.
Yes, the risk assessor. And
Yeah, risk analyst.
yeah, and I can't wait to do that. And yet just before we get into sharing, sort of the solution, I do want to take a couple of minutes on the three problems that we're really seeking to solve here, right? Because, this isn't as simple as having talent, right? It's like, what can they do and how much do they cost? Because if it wasn't, in my opinion, for the cost, this would have been solved quite some time ago. Meaning the cost to train people is significant. And, being the largest cybersecurity staffing, firm in the US, these statistics here, we see them all day long. I mean, we're replacing, mid-level and senior talent, all the time. Luckily, our clients that we work with, they understand succession planning and growth and strategy. And so the people we place stick around a lot longer than 12 to 18 months, a heck of a lot longer. But the people we're taking them from firms that aren't providing growth opportunities, aren't providing sort of relief in their daily, tasks and projects that just build up. And I see it day in, day out. It's because they don't want to invest in the junior resources. And so I really love that you're helping us solve this. I hate to make it ever about money, and yet that's a huge piece of what's going on. And so you being able to, take people sort of from the streets, if you will, or from some other background or IT or whatever, and get them productive quickly for a security program is super awesome. And that's what I've been looking for, because I know that my clients are struggling with budget.
For sure. Yeah, I think a big thing with the talent shortage is that, yeah, there's naturally a lot of work for us to do in cybersecurity, and there's a big need, but also the way that most cybersecurity programs deploy is that they really don't delineate between senior level tasks and junior level tasks on their team. So for example, a very senior engineer may implement a phishing technology, for example, and then all of a sudden they are that phishing technology person, and they're doing junior follow-up on that same phishing technology. And on top of that, those junior tasks like following up on alerts or something, those are more repetitive in nature. So a big portion of the approach is understanding really in a security program, what is the best way to organize and architect, we call it task architecture, what your different teams are doing, right? And really understanding where senior folks are working on junior level tasks, and what is the balance there, and could those be deployed in a different kind of configuration? And then in tying that back to really the budget conversation, well, one, obviously, for every minute that senior resource who's much more expensive is spending on that junior task, that's a loss of money right there. And then on top of that, those senior resources are senior. They don't want to be working on those tasks, which then upsets them, angers them, and then they leave, and then it starts all the costs associated with refilling that position. So I think that, as much as anything else, just if our discipline becomes open to not just doing everything in the context of a senior level position, we can take a big bite out of that talent shortage. And that's a big portion of what we're trying to do with Cyber Forward.
I love it. And as you know, I mean, I'm the founder of the 35 job categories, the whole tasks and projects listed under every possible job title. And it is the backbone of our No More platform that allows us to make matches so quickly. And so I've been looking to solve this problem by way of resources for a long time, but you're the first organization, Cyber Forward is the first organization I've come across where you're actually training people to the tasks that are happening right now in the private sector. And we're focused on the private sector, right? And that so that we can speak to the business. Because as you and I both know, a lot of times where the reason why budgets don't exist is that the business can't see the need.
Yeah.
And I don't think the business, i.e. the people above, or even some of the senior leadership of security sometimes can see the need because they don't create their job, descriptions for everybody on their team down to the tasks and the projects, which I say just has to happen. And I know you believe too. So this is, what help, just makes me so happy. Like I can help others understand value when we can talk to the tasks and projects, right? So not only do we have a talent shortage, right? What that bled into and what that created is a retention problem, which we just talked about. And then people trying to hire in this, mess, right? And yet the number one reason everybody's leaving is because there's no growth strategy. Well, you can't grow people without outlining tasks and projects that they're responsible for and really looking at them, absorbing them, understanding them as their manager, so that you can grow. And so, these are kind of intertwined so together, right? The shortage, the retention problem, the hiring challenge, it's all tied together in that the education system isn't doing what you're doing. So that's, the talent problem. And so, my gosh. And then on top of it, as you're going to share with us and how you identify and source your candidates, we got a whole, what's known as the diversity, solution. I like, and I know you do too, underrepresented humans, or under opportunity. So tell us, about your phases and phase one in how you're really connecting the diversity piece.
Sure. So I think one big difference in our model is that it's a multi-phase program, right? And it crosses the whole path from when actually you're developing a professional in the beginning, all the way to when they're actually working in that cycle. And by doing that, it allows you to do things like consider, all the things that we just talked about, how they're actually gonna be readied to then do specific tasks in an environment and understanding that architecture when deployed. So the way in which the program works, 5 phases as I mentioned. First, we start by identifying and sourcing candidates. And by identification, we're looking for people that have aptitudes to be successful in cybersecurity, not necessarily hard skills that might be what are commonly thought of as the best. And we do that in a couple ways in that phase. The first thing that we do is we work with community partners that have access to pools of people that demonstrate those, that generally have those aptitudes. And it's many different pools that are commonly underserved and not necessarily included in the process. And aptitudes are things like the ability to learn and teach quickly, how you communicate in a business setting, and things like that. Those types of aptitudes, which are present in a mom who's maybe working and able to explain things to their child in which way they work it. Someone that is in the military and is constantly learning very complex technologies in a procedural format. So many different places that are not necessarily tied together in terms of moving into cybersecurity with our legacy training approach. So we identify and work with community partners to, and there's a lot of nonprofits, a lot of universities and the like that identify these candidates and work with us to identify these candidates. And in that phase, we are spending time with them to teach them about, hey, you know, do you maybe have these aptitudes, and would this be of interest to you? The other thing we do that's critical at that point is that we work with them to understand that really it's many of those people type aptitudes and things that are needed to make the best cybersecurity professionals. You know, I tell people all the time, you know, if you go to the internet and you type in hacker in Google, it's going to come back over half of it with, you know, a white guy typing at a keyboard, you know, in the same exact demographic, always a technical context of what we think it is. And so it scares people from even wanting to get into the discipline. So we spend as much time looking at aptitudes in people as telling these people, hey, you probably do have what it takes to make sense to make it work in cybersecurity. So then we onboard them and then we put them into phase 2. And in phase 2, one other thing we do too, we don't hide behind roadblocks that people may have. Roadblocks are things like access to technology, finances, naturally, healthcare, daycare, transportation is a big one. All of those types of things that are roadblocks. And so instead of in our legacy, just, you know, societal kind of dogma, it's taboo to talk about those things, and we leave it on the individual to just deal with it. And we're not saying that, you know, we take care of everything in those situations, but instead of just leaving it on the person and not talking about it, we work with these people to identify those problems, and then we surround a group around them to help them and partner with them in terms of working all the way through the problem. You know, we tell people all the time, it's very common that talent development is it's a individual sport, right? I was an athlete, and we're trying to turn it into a team sport and surrounding these people so we all work together in the development of people over time. And so that's what we're doing there as well in terms of identifying those things so that we can partner with them along the journey. They then move into a 4-week class where we're switching another paradigm, which is we start with role-based training before we move into specific domain training. So for example, it's common for us to just tell people in our training and really in our university systems, and by our training, I mean just cybersecurity domain, you know, what is cybersecurity, and just foundational knowledge and confidentiality, integrity, and availability, and all these different things that you can't actually do anything with. What we do is we switch that and we start talking to them about tasks and how to actually do specific job roles from the beginning. And then we teach and measure their aptitudes in doing those tasks in that 4-week training. The example I always give people is that instead of telling people about the benefits of race car driving, we instead in the beginning talk to them about 3 roles. One of them might be actually how to change a tire in the race. And by doing that, they're then in the game, they're starting to see stuff, and they have skills. Hey, every race needs people that can change the tires, so they can start adding value in that junior capacity. So we bring them through that class. and all the way through, and they are force ranked. There's competition with them working with each other. They also start to bond and create a support system at that point. Once they get through, that class, the people that that make it all the way through, then move on to the internship at CISOshare. This is an unpaid internship, in that we work with them and we're further developing them, again, with more skills on how to change that tire and a little bit more surrounding information, as well as we're starting to then get them ready for and starting to help them connect the dots with some of the foundation knowledge. We don't say, hey, you don't need the foundation knowledge. We just, again, switch that paradigm, and the balance starts to change the farther they move through our program. Then once they get through that, if they qualify, they move into what we call phase 4. This is the working phase. And this is really where we're looking for what we call hiring partners. Those are organizations that actually can give these guys projects, to give them 3 to 6 month contract projects in order to further let them start working. But the thing is, the key at that point is that it's not just value for the what we call talent participant. It also needs to be value for the hiring organization. These people need to be performing junior level work that adds value for these folks in the organization. If they make it through that, and then they would move into phase 5. In phase 5, they're either extended or hired in the organization. And we're doing this program at scale. We run a cycle about every 3 months, and a cycle is starting at phase 1, getting them all the way through. So we're developing more and more and more people, including the cycle we just ran through the pandemic.
I know, and I just met that crew last week on a Zoom hour meeting, and they're so impressive.
I think, we're learning so much as we're doing this, because we are very unconventional in our approach. And the team here at CISOshare, I'm so thankful to the team, as well as all the partners and you and everyone that spends that time. But the more we focus on that team-based approach, we're just producing better and better people by the time they get to phase 4.
Totally. I mean, I know I'm at where I'm at because I walked into a team-based environment right out of college, and I was so lucky to work with those people for 21 years across 3 different companies. Same founders, same leaders. That was the concept. Stick together. Hang together, hang separately. And 6 minds together creates more than 1 or 2. And it's just so true how fast humans learn when they're in the experience that they want to repeat, versus trying to think about what the experience might be if they were in it, which is what typical classroom or education is, because it isn't this changing of the tire right now. It's like you said, talking about car racing and the benefits and all this stuff before you get down to, man, you could bring value fast just by changing tires, because it's a big piece of this gamut of stuff we got to do to make that car race. And we need people, we're short. And so I love that analogy. And truly brilliant, again, that you backed into this differently, which is the tasks and the projects. That's where the value add to the corporations are. And again, I can't stress enough, it is a serious budget problem as to why we're not getting the typical entry-level people hired. First of all, nobody pays me for that. Second, if they have no experience, and where do people go to get their talent? But, right? We've got a broken digital system of finding and matching like crazy, as we know. And then a budget problem on top of it too, so it's just awesome what you've done, and great team. And I just love how you think, tremendously love how you think. All right. So here's the 3 roles that we are able to provide together: junior security analyst, junior risk analyst, and this junior security engineer, vulnerability engineer. Let's get for our audience the details here, specifically. Junior security analyst shows up to work for one of my clients day 1. What can they do, Mike?
Yeah, so we when we're training them, we do teach them about what a security program is and what it looks like and where are all the different pieces and how that works. That is something that goes into that. And then we also start bringing them up on showing them what common security analyst related tools would tasks and techniques would be once they actually get into the role. So and on top of that, we're also really looking at how they can write and, not like write a soliloquy, but write in a business setting in terms of communicating with other people. Many of the exercises we do during the training are teaching them how to do that, how they can convey ideas and communicate back and forth, either verbally or in the written form. So that's really how they're prepped. So where that works good in an environment is any type of documentation or research related elements for anything in any of the common silos of a security program. So incident management, also in governance, risk, and compliance, we have a risk position, but they can also do stuff there. Training and awareness. And keep in mind on training and awareness, we always look for people that are experts in cybersecurity when we do training and awareness. Actually, we flip that. People that are best explaining concepts about cybersecurity to people that generally don't know it, which is 95% of your organization, are people that are just learning it themselves because they understand how to explain it in a way in which people grab it. So they make perfect, it's completely different than what people think, but it actually works best to have them help on delivering a lot of that content and finding ways to really understand the perspective. So any of those types of things, any reporting types of positions or research elements within the core governance area of the security program, they're going to be good. What we see a lot of times is that they're also really good in business related positions that surround the program. So we've seen a lot where they're business liaisons or like, BISOs, a lot of times they call them, that security person that works in a business unit. Because again, everyone they're interfacing with is generally non-security, and it's all about communication and presence skills. And these people are bullets in that way. So pretty much any of those types of positions. And then the functionality that they really do or capability that they give an organization is that they provide straight up backfill to people that are performing those in a senior level role. So a lot of times, they will go and they'll work with those people that are senior. They do need to have direction and all of that. And you can start working on those junior type tasks that senior person is doing, and they can do them. But now also you're getting that backfill support if, say, that senior person goes on vacation or something. And we're seeing that all the time now. And in fact, we get that feedback. It's like, it really takes Jan or Johnny a lot to trust someone to then go on vacation, and they're doing it. And so that's a perfect example. So any core program area, any of those types of backfill or writing tasks, research tasks, or backfill tasks at the junior level, they're going to be great. And they are generally more non-technical positions on this track. Although, you can have them work in some documentation or some alerting or research tasks associated with the technology, but they're not going to be someone that's got that technical focus most of the time.
Right. On the analyst side, it's going to be more risk and compliance and policies and standards. And not everybody can see our slides, folks, but we do have slides for each one of these roles that you can get after listening to literally see, the tasks that Mike's talking about that they'll be able to help on day one. And so if that's the junior, what about the junior risk analyst? What's the difference in what this?
Yeah, so it's similar in terms of context, except we specifically teach risk analysts, and we usually focus on third-party risk analysts in our development. And the reason that we do that is because they learn the tasks of delivering a questionnaire and delivering an assessment. And it allows them to understand those tasks, but also allows them to start to see all the different areas that get assessed during the assessment process. So it's kind of that's why we use that technique and have that specific role. So they're good in any of the work streams what's commonly I hate to call it this, but it's what we all call it, the governance, risk, and compliance group in an organization, and performing risk assessments on projects, performing risk assessments on third parties, performing any type of risk or remediation activities and follow-up is good. And on top of that, the other reason we like risk management is because there's a ton of repeatability, right? And there's a lot of need for resources. And so, for example, in third-party risk assessments, many organizations have thousands of them, right? And they just need people to go and drive the technology software that they usually have. There's no limitations on whatever your GRC technology is. They can get in there and start firing away on those tasks as long as they're getting the training in order to do that in the initial. And we also train them in the beginning on all of those types of processes, so it's not an issue, and they can get fired pretty quickly.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Okay, and the junior security vulnerability engineer.
Perfect. So this one is usually what we find in the development process is that people go either into the analytical kind of analyst side, or they are going into the technical side. And especially with a lot of our the veterans that come through, because our government, at least in the U.S., we're running a lot of programs around like getting free A+ certifications and things like that. So a lot of vets are coming out and are starting to get that base level technology and they kind of background, and they want to continue on in that track. So these folks are the people that can take on those more junior level tasks we talked about earlier associated with these technologies, and to continue their learning, so they can be that phishing expert, in the future. We've seen people working in those kind of tasks, on those junior level tasks associated with many different technologies in the program. Some of the ones that are really low hanging fruit, data loss prevention technologies, DLP. There's a ton of tasks involved with those technologies. Response and research and incident management, that's another one where a lot of times it's more technical, right? So you're going and looking and doing some of the research elements associated with the technology. Phishing technology, we talked about that. The majority of engineering and technologies implemented in an environment, there's a sweet layer of junior level tasks that take that little bit of junior technical background. They've got a little bit more of that outside of what we're training with, and then we develop it further once they pick that track. But they're very successful in doing that. The other thing I might add on this one, we are seeing the technical level of people that are coming to us being higher and higher and higher and higher and higher, because of the fact that now, for example, in this last round, I believe many of the people were not working. Sometimes people are trying to change careers and they're still working when they come through our program. But more and more people with this pandemic, right, they're out of work. And so we're seeing the breadth of knowledge on the technical side being a lot higher when they come through this program. But still, keep in mind, these are designed as junior positions
Sure.
to help in that way.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. I'm a lot of people are technical and they don't know they have the technical or have the technical capability and don't even know. And then you start, putting them in front of technology, and it's amazing what happens. So I'm not surprised. I love it. I'm so excited to be offering, these trained resources to our clients, and that you and I are both committed to keeping them in the community, support system. You're going to continue training with them. I'm going to provide resource support. Right? We both get that this is a community effort to really help people get their careers going. You mentioned some things early on about, the things that get in the way that are financial for people. And those are very true and getting more true by the day. And so those of us that have, the successes that we all have to be able to do this, I know just matters greatly to us both. And so I know we're going to continue to make sure these folks get training and support and are part of our community, both CysoShare, CyberFord, CyberSN, Secure Diversity, all of our groups, and never mind all the other partners out there that we both have. So thank you again for truly thinking outside of the box of solving major problems for the cybersecurity industry. And I really look forward to us celebrating the successes of these folks' careers over the years coming.
Yeah, thanks so much for the opportunity. Yeah, I'm just as excited to get going. You know, help solve this cybersecurity shortage, as well as give people a lot of the opportunities that they deserve. And so, yeah, let's get it rocking.
Life-changing opportunities. It's super awesome. Have a great weekend, and I'll talk to you soon.
You as well.